Guy Penrod was at the peak of his solo career, performing to sold-out crowds and inspiring millions with his powerful voice, when something stopped him dead in his tracks. It wasn't burnout, it wasn't a scandal, it was his own body sending him an urgent message he could no longer ignore. The gospel legend recently underwent emergency heart surgery, canceling 4 major concerts and leaving fans worried about his future. But this story isn't just about a singer facing a health crisis. It's about what happens when someone who's spent their entire life being the strong one suddenly has to admit they're vulnerable, and the shocking lessons his journey teaches us about success, faith, and the price we pay when we ignore the warning signs our bodies send us. Picture this. You're at the top of your game. Your voice has been described as one of the most powerful instruments in gospel music. Fans travel thousands of miles just to hear you sing. Then one day, during what should be a routine event, you feel it, a heaviness in your chest, a pain that won't go away. And in that moment, everything changes. That's exactly what happened to Guy Penrod. And the decision he made next is something most performers would never have the courage to do. He canceled 4 sold-out solo concerts, walked away from the stage, and chose something that many artists struggle to prioritize: his own health. But here's what nobody's talking about. The surgery wasn't just about fixing a physical problem. It was about confronting a truth that everyone in the spotlight faces but few admit. Your body will force you to stop if you don't listen to the warning signs. Now, you need to understand who Guy Penrod really is. Because this isn't just about a singer having a medical procedure. This is about a man whose entire identity has been built on being the strong one, the voice of hope, the person others lean on. Born on the 2nd of July, 1963, in Taylor, Texas, Penrod didn't just stumble into gospel music. He was born into it. His father was a preacher. His mother was a singer. Music and faith weren't just part of his upbringing. They were the foundation of everything. But here's something most people don't realize about Penrod's journey. When he joined the Gaither vocal band in 1994, he wasn't just joining any group. He was stepping into a legacy. The Gaither vocal band was one of the most respected names in gospel music. Penrod's distinctive voice quickly made him a standout. For nearly 2 decades, he was the voice that defined a generation of gospel music fans. His performances weren't just concerts, they were experiences. People didn't just come to hear him sing, they came to feel something, to be transformed. Then came 2013, and Penrod made the controversial decision to leave the Gaither vocal band and pursue a solo career. In the gospel music world, leaving a group like the Gaithers isn't just a career move, it's a statement. Many fans felt betrayed. They had formed their identity as gospel music lovers around the Gaither vocal band, and Penrod's departure felt personal. Social media erupted. Some fans accused him of putting ego over ministry, but here's what those critics didn't understand. Sometimes you have to make the hard choice to save yourself, even when everyone around you is telling you to stay the course. Penrod's decision to go solo wasn't about abandoning anything. It was about growth, about exploring his own artistic voice. And that takes courage. When you go solo, everything falls on you. Every note, every performance, every message. And Penrod carried it well. His solo career flourished. Albums were released, tours sold out. He proved that his voice could stand on its own. But that success came at a cost that nobody wants to talk about in the entertainment industry, especially in Christian entertainment, where you're supposed to be the one with all the answers, all the strength. The pressure of being a solo artist is relentless. You're not just the talent, you're the brand. And here's the brutal truth that connects directly to what happened with his heart. Your body doesn't care about your tour schedule. It doesn't care about disappointed fans. When your body says stop, you either listen or it makes you listen. Penrod was experiencing warning signs. Chest pain, that feeling of heaviness, the kind of symptoms that are easy to dismiss when you're busy, when you have commitments. How many times do you think he felt that discomfort and pushed through? This is the part that should terrify all of us, because we do it too. We ignore the warning signs because we're too busy, too committed, too afraid of letting people down. But Penrod did something that separates those who survive from those who don't. He paid attention. When the symptoms persisted, when he couldn't brush it off anymore, he made the decision that would save his life. He went to the doctor, and that's when everything became real. The diagnosis came back. He needed a stent. A cardiac stent is a small mesh tube inserted into a blocked artery to keep it open and improve blood flow to the heart. It's a common procedure. But when it's your heart, when it's your life, there's nothing common about it. 4 solo concerts were immediately cancelled. Fans who had bought tickets suddenly received the news that the shows were off. And this is where you see the true character of both an artist and their fan base. The immediate reaction could have been anger. But none of that happened. Instead, something beautiful unfolded. Social media became a prayer chain. Fans from around the world posted messages of support, expressing their understanding that health comes first. And Penrod didn't hide. He could have kept it private, issued a generic statement, and disappeared until he was ready to return. But he went public with what was happening. He shared his fears, his gratitude, his determination to come back stronger, and in doing so, he gave his fans something more valuable than any concert. He gave them permission to be human, to acknowledge weakness, to prioritize health over performance. The surgery itself was successful. The stent was placed. Blood flow was restored. But here's what the medical reports don't capture. The recovery period became a forced pause in a life that had been moving at breakneck speed for decades. When you're Guy Penrod, when your entire identity is wrapped up in being the voice, the performer, what happens when you can't do any of that? Who are you when you can't be what everyone expects you to be? This is the existential crisis that hits every high performer who faces a health setback. During those weeks of recovery, Penrod had to confront something uncomfortable. Rest. Not the kind of rest you get between shows. Real rest. The kind that makes you face yourself, your choices, your priorities, your mortality. And here's where his faith became not just something he performed, but something he had to live in the most vulnerable way possible. It's easy to sing about faith when you're healthy, strong, standing in front of adoring fans. It's different when you're recovering from heart surgery, uncertain about your future, worried about whether your voice will come back the same. But Penrod's story isn't just about the surgery and recovery. Remember, this is someone who's lived most of his adult life in the public eye. His marriage to Angie in 1990 brought them 8 children, and despite the demands of fame, they've maintained what many describe as a remarkably grounded family life. That's not easy. The Penrods somehow avoided that trap, but it required constant prioritization of what matters most. And those 8 children, they're not just footnotes in his biography. They're part of his legacy. Many of them have joined him on stage over the years, sharing the family's musical gifts with audiences. That's showing, not just telling, what it means to live your values. But it also means the stakes of this health crisis were even higher. This wasn't just about one man's career. It was about a father, a husband, the center of a large family who depends on him, not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually. Now, we need to talk about the controversy, because this is where Penrod's story becomes even more complex. Throughout his career, especially in recent years, he's made public statements about his faith and positions on various social and political issues. Penrod's conservative Christian views, his stances on topics like LGBTQ rights, his comments on political division, they've sparked heated debates. Some fans have celebrated his willingness to speak his truth, to not compromise his beliefs for popularity. They see him as a beacon of integrity. Other fans have been deeply hurt by his statements. They feel that the inclusive message of love that drew them to his music has been compromised. They wonder how the same voice that sang about God's unconditional love can seemingly exclude those who don't fit a particular mold. This tension is real. But here's what's fascinating about how this connects to his health crisis. In facing his mortality, Penrod's response hasn't been to change his beliefs or apologize. Instead, he's doubled down on the idea that authenticity, even controversial authenticity, is more important than universal approval. And there's something admirable about that. Even if you disagree with his positions, how many of us are willing to stand by our convictions when it costs us something? How many of us have the courage to say, "This is what I believe. This is who I am," even when we know it means losing fans, losing opportunities? The heart surgery added another layer to this conversation. Because when you're lying in a hospital bed, when you're facing the real possibility that you might not get another chance to speak, to sing, to share your message, you have to decide what's worth fighting for. And for Penrod, it's clear that his faith, his family, and his music remain the non-negotiables. Everything else, the criticism, the controversy, the debates, they're secondary to those core commitments. But here's the question that lingers, and that makes this story so relevant to all of us. Is it possible to be authentic and uncompromising in your beliefs, while also being compassionate and open to those who see the world differently? Can you stand firm in your convictions without standing on other people? This is the tension Penrod's life and career embody, and it's the same tension many of us navigate in our own lives, even if our stage is much smaller. What makes his recovery even more remarkable is the support system that surrounded him. Angie, his wife of over 3 decades, was there through every moment. The couple's relationship has been described by those close to them as a true partnership, built on mutual respect, shared faith, and a commitment to weathering storms together. That kind of relationship doesn't happen by accident. It's built through thousands of small choices, through prioritizing each other even when careers pull you apart, through maintaining connection even when the spotlight makes intimacy difficult. During his recovery, that foundation mattered more than ever. When you're vulnerable, when you're scared, when you're facing uncertainty, having someone who knows you completely, who loves you not for what you do but for who you are, that's everything. And the fans, despite the controversies, showed up. The overwhelming response to his surgery was one of compassion and concern. Prayer circles formed. Messages flooded social media. Support poured in from people who may not agree with everything he says, but who recognized that a human being was suffering, and that in moments like these, our common humanity matters more than our differences. This response says something hopeful about us, that even in our deeply divided world, there are moments when we can put aside our disagreements and simply care for one another. As the weeks passed and Penrod's recovery progressed, he kept his fans updated, not just with generic statements, but with real, honest reflections on what he was experiencing, the fear, the gratitude, the frustration of being forced to slow down, the revelation that maybe his pace had been unsustainable, the dawning realization that his body's rebellion wasn't a punishment, but a gift, a warning delivered in time to make changes, to save his life, to give him the chance to return to what he loves. And this is the message that transcends gospel music, that speaks to anyone listening right now. Your body is not your enemy. Those warning signs, that exhaustion you keep pushing through, that pain you keep ignoring, they're not obstacles to overcome. They're messages to decode. They're your body's way of saying, "I'm trying to keep you alive, but I need you to work with me." Penrod's choice to be transparent about his experience, to share not just the successful surgery, but the reality of recovery, the setbacks, the slow progress, the patience required. This is leadership. This is using your platform not to project perfection, but to model what it looks like to be human, to struggle, to need help, to accept limitations. And in a culture that worships the grind, that celebrates those who sacrifice everything, including their health for success, this message is revolutionary. It's saying, your worth is not measured by your productivity. Your value doesn't diminish when you need to rest. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's essential if you want to keep showing up for the people who need you. The 4 cancelled concerts, initially a source of disappointment, became something else entirely. They became a testimony to what matters most. They became proof that even someone whose entire career is built on showing up, on delivering, on being reliable, can and should prioritize their health. They became permission for every fan struggling with their own health issues to put themselves first. Because if Guy Penrod, who has spent decades being the strong one, can admit he needs help and take time to heal, then maybe they can too. Maybe we all can. This is the deeper value that often gets lost in stories like these. We focus on the celebrity, the drama of the surgery, the relief of the successful recovery. But the real story is in the permission it gives the rest of us to be human, to be vulnerable, to choose life over performance. As Penrod continues his recovery and prepares to eventually return to the stage, there's a sense that he's not just healing physically, there's a transformation happening, the kind that only comes when you're forced to stop and reevaluate everything. His relationship with his family has deepened. His appreciation for his wife and children, already strong, has grown even more profound. His understanding of what it means to live with faith, rather than just sing about it, has become more nuanced, more embodied. And his message to his fans has evolved. It's no longer just about the music, though the music will always be central. It's about the whole journey, the struggles and the triumphs, the certainty and the doubt, the strength and the weakness, all woven together into a life that's real and raw, and ultimately more inspiring than any carefully crafted image could ever be. Looking at the bigger picture of Penrod's career, from his early days in Taylor, Texas, through his transformative years with the Gaither vocal band, into his successful solo career, and now through this health crisis, what emerges is a portrait of resilience. Not the kind of resilience that means never breaking, never needing help, never showing weakness, but the kind that means breaking and healing, asking for help and receiving it, showing weakness and being loved anyway. That's the resilience that actually sustains us over a lifetime. That's the resilience that allows us to keep going, not despite our humanity, but because of it. And that's ultimately what makes Guy Penrod's story, including this recent chapter of heart surgery and recovery, worth paying attention to. So, what can we take away from all of this? What's the lesson that applies, whether you're a gospel music fan or have never heard Guy Penrod sing a single note? It's this: your health, your well-being, your life, they're not negotiable. They're not something you sacrifice on the altar of success or obligation or other people's expectations. They're the foundation without which nothing else matters. And when your body sends you warning signs, when it tells you something's wrong, listening isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And taking the time to heal, really heal, not just patch yourself up enough to get back in the game, that's not a luxury, it's a necessity. Guy Penrod's heart surgery didn't just save his life, it reminded all of us that we only get one life, one body, one chance to do this right. And doing it right means honoring the limits that keep us alive, respecting the warnings that protect us, and having the courage to stop when stopping is what our body needs, even when the world is telling us to keep going. As he looks toward returning to the stage, stronger and more focused than before, Penrod carries with him not just a physical reminder in the form of a stent keeping his artery open, but a deeper understanding of what it means to truly live. His voice will return to those arenas, his music will continue to inspire, and his message will keep reaching millions. But now, woven into every note, every lyric, every performance, will be the wisdom of someone who almost lost it all and chose to save himself. That's the power of his story. That's why it matters. And that's the message we all need to hear, whether we ever set foot on a stage or not. Drop a comment below and tell me, what warning sign have you been ignoring? What's the one thing you know you need to address, but you've been putting off? Be honest. This is a judgment-free space. We're all human. We all struggle with this. And sometimes just typing it out, making it real, putting it out there, that's the first step toward actually doing something about it. Maybe your comment will inspire someone else to take action. Maybe reading other people's comments will give you the courage you need. That's what community is for. To support each other. To hold each other accountable. To remind each other that we're worth taking care of. And if Guy Penrod's journey taught us anything, it's that vulnerability isn't weakness. Admitting you need help isn't failure. Taking a step back to take care of yourself isn't giving up. It's the bravest, smartest, most important thing you can do. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't inspire others if you're running on fumes. You can't be there for the people who need you if you're not here at all. So, take care of yourself. Not someday. Not when things calm down. Not when you have time. Right now. Today. Make the call. Schedule the appointment. Have the conversation. Choose yourself. Choose your health. Choose life. Because the world needs you here. Your family needs you here. Your purpose needs you here. And you can't fulfill any of that if you're not taking care of the one body you've got. Guy Penrod made that choice, and it saved his life. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring enough about yourself to invest this time in learning these lessons. Now, go out there and actually apply them. Your future self will thank you.